everybody. It's me again. Yesterday I did this live stream and the audio was terrible and I didn't know it. So I had to delete it and I'm going to do it all over again. So we get to make a block all over again. I'm so excited. I have to make a whole bunch anyway for this quilt. So here we go. I have decided since I started doing this live stream a few weeks ago, for some reason I decided to go ahead and make my bookshelf quilt that I've always wanted to make. And I got to thinking about it and I was thinking, okay, well, I don't do a lot of reading, like the classics or anything like that. So what do I like? I like Halloween a lot. So I thought, okay, so I will make my bookshelf quilt with books on it that have to do with Halloween, maybe witches, things like that. And then I got to thinking, okay, what would a witch have on her bookshelf? Well, she'd have a magic wand and she'd have jars that have herbs and, frog legs and who knows what. So I thought, okay, well, I'll just go down that path and make a witch's apothecary bookshelf and we'll see what happens. So just like last week, I'm using the same book for this next block. It's called Cups and Saucers. Let me switch the view for you so you can see what I'm making today. I'm so excited about these blocks. They're so cool. Let me switch that view. Here we go. Okay. So I'm making, oh, I lowered the camera. I'm making out of this book. Last week we made these bowls right here. And then, that's better. And then, so I'm making this jar today. And I made it yesterday too. Huh. So anyway, I'm making that jar today. If you are joining me, please talk to me in chat. I would love to answer your questions as we go, or tell me I'm talking too loud, or tell me the audio is terrible like it was yesterday. That would be great. Anyway, that's the book. So what I like to do is make a copy of my pattern onto plain paper. And then I put that in the printer and make a copy onto my foundation, whatever that is. This time I'm using newsprint. Sometimes I use phone book paper, anything thin like that. So here's the bowls I made last week. Okay, you can go back and watch that one. And then here's the one that we made yesterday. It's a little jar. And you can see it's shiny. I'll tell you about that in a minute. It's a little jar gumballs. Isn't that fun? Okay. And then this, I put the label on it this morning. That's my jar of nuts. So that's what's going to be on her shelf so far. Nuts and gumballs. Who knows? So today I'm going to make some, I think these are going to be herbs. So it's just foliage. Is that how you say it? Foliage. So anyway, that's going to go in the jar. So you need something to go in the jar. And my background fabric, my shelf fabric, my jar lid. You can see my jar lid right here. That's this fabric. It's pretty nifty. Then you're going to need your pattern, of course. It's right here, pattern. And then to make it shiny and make it look like it was actually a jar, I used vinyl, this clear vinyl. It's basically vinyl that you can get for covering over a tablecloth, that kind of vinyl. You can get it anywhere. So I do have links to all this stuff in below if you want to go there, but anyway, you can get it pretty much anywhere. We're going to use that. And we also need a piece of tissue paper. And I'll explain why in a little bit. This is the stuff you wrap in presents, that kind of thing. So we need all of that. Okay. So the first thing I did was I printed out the pattern. I'll show you. If you look at the jar she has on here, it has a label on it. And the label is pieced into the jar. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to piece that in. I wanted to applique it on later, like I did this morning. See, I put a different kind of label on it. So I made all of this green and this yellow label part right here, I made that green also. So all of that was one piece of fabric for my center instead of starting with the yellow as my center. And I'll show you what that does on the pattern. So this is the block. Can you see the jar number 6 up here? That's the lid. This is the jar. This the 0, or actually I circled 1. You can't really see it. That's the label in the original pattern. Okay, so I'm doing away with that. And I'm making this piece, this whole big piece right here, piece number 1. So then I'm going to, my first piece I'm going to put on is this little corner 2. And then 3 is this corner, 4 and 5. And that would translate. So this whole thing right here is 1. There's that little corner right there. 2 and 3. And that little corner 4 and that little corner 5. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm just going to ignore the numbering on here. I renumbered it. So 1 is my big giant piece, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then my outside pieces, the jar lid 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're going to do them like that. Okay. I have more in-depth paper piecing instructions on my previous video, but I'll go through it here too, just because that's what we're doing. So you always want to keep your numbers and your pattern on the back. So as I'm looking at it, this is the back and this is the front. So I'm going to make my picture on the front with my fabric. All right, I'm going to use the back as my map. It's going to show me where to sew, where to fold. Okay, so I want to use my herbs. That's what's going in my jar. That's piece number 1. I want to put it all the way covering this area, but on this side. All right, so then I want to lay it down, and I want to, whoops, I'm jumping ahead of myself here. Good grief. Okay, so this jar is going to have vinyl on it. So we want to put the vinyl piece on top of the jar like this. Like I said, this is the front, so this is what you're looking at. You want the vinyl on top of whatever's in the jar, right? And then we're going to use the tissue paper on top of that. And the reason we use tissue paper is to keep it from dragging when it goes through the machine, because this is going to be going through the machine like this, and the tissue paper is going to help it slide through. Otherwise it would catch, and it would be a terrible disaster. Okay, so I also like to pin this. I don't normally pin, but I like to pin this down. First we're going to glue though. So this probably sounds a lot scattered to you because I did this yesterday and it's like I'm repeating the whole thing. It's very strange. Okay. So, ooh, that's a lot of glue right there. All right. I love this glue. It's purple. Okay. All right. So, what's going in our jar goes first. I'm going to stick that down on the glue. Our vinyl goes next. Make sure there's nothing between the vinyl and whatever that is, or it'll be there forever. Tissue paper on top. Okay. Now I'm going to flip it over and then I'm going to pin it. Because we're working with so many layers, I just want to pin just way out on the outside edge, just to hold it for the first couple of stitching lines, and then we'll just take the pins out. Come on. Nope. Work with me here. There we go. Okay, now we're ready. So we want to take and fold back on the line between 1, which is our big giant piece here, and 2, which is that little corner. And as I've said before, there's no way I could piece this little bitty corner without doing it paper piecing. There's just no way I could do that. Okay, and then last time I showed you that you need to cut a seam allowance out here while this is folded back. You need to cut this off out here. And I said use a ruler and you can get 1/4 of an inch or roughly 1/4 of an inch cut there. That'll give you your seam allowance. But I remembered I had these in my stash and I went and got them and I thought, oh wow, these are really cool. They work really well. So I'm going to show you these. Use these. These are called add a 1/4. It's got a little lip on it here at the top. And you just drag that up to your edge of your paper and it adds that little 1/4 of an inch. It's pretty cool. I forgot I had them. And it's one of those things you buy and you're like, oh, I'll use that someday. I put it in a drawer, right? All right, so see that cut my 1/4 inch seam allowance. So then I want to fold this back out. And that number 2 is going to be background fabric, which I know is my dark brown. So I really hope this sounds okay. It sounded so bad yesterday. Okay. Now we'll lay that on the edge there. And then we're going to stitch it. Now on this particular piece, these 4 corners, I'm going to back stitch over the seam because it's so tiny that I have to get more stitches there. So I'll show you how small it is. It's crazy. That's it. Very, very small. Okay, so what we've done is we've stitched the background piece over this tissue paper and the vinyl. It'll stitch it to everything. And we're going to lay it back, fold it back, and finger press it down. Use a handy tool, whatever. Okay, so that's number 2. Then we're going to find number 3, and we're going to do the same thing, 3, 4, and 5. So I'm going to do that. Go ahead and get rid of that pin. Okay, so then we're going to fold back on this line right here. See that line? That little bitty line? That's what we're stitching on. It's very short. So fold it back like that. Get your ruler. Make sure that's flat. Put your ruler right up there. Cut that off. I think I'll save that little piece of green. Okay. So I cut that like that. Fold it out. Get another piece of brown. This is where you can use your little bitty scraps. It's great. Okay, so we want to find that corner right there. It's right about there. Hard to see on camera, I know. Okay. Fold the whole thing over. Put it underneath here. And stitch. This goes so fast. I love paper piecing. Okay. Oops, wrong thing. Fold it back. Finger press it out. Okay, got 2 corners. Can't you tell? Not really. Okay. Find corner number 4. Same thing. Lay this back on the line. Take your ruler. Line it up. Cut that off. Okay. See, every time that ruler is giving me this 1/4 of an inch out there, so that's pretty cool. background. Find that little triangle right there. Line it up. Nope, over this way. Okay. Flip it. Okay. That's so right on the line. Oops. Anybody got any questions or anything? Anybody out there? Oh, thank you. I'm glad it sounds great. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm folding back on 5. Using the ruler. And this ruler comes in 2 sizes too. I'll use this big one on this side. There we go. Okay. Alright. Save that green piece. I am a scrap quilter, so I save little pieces of fabric. I'm a paper piecer also, which means I save little pieces of fabric. Okay. So this will be the 4th corner. Trust me, it will. I have to cut these for that. See, that's what I like about this. You don't have to measure anything or do anything. You just eyeball it. Yeah, that'll fit. Oh, now see, I put it way down there and it needs to go over here. Okay. Yep, like that. All right. Now this vinyl, you can iron it, but be very, very careful. Like it's just a warm iron. This piece I had was rolled up into it had so many wrinkles in it, and so I just unfurled it and just pressed it out. Don't melt it. Just be very careful. I used a pressing cloth on the top of it, which is a fancy word for muslin, but whatever. Okay. Now you see how we're sewing down the tissue paper in there? And we'll deal with that later at the very end. Okay. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 we've done. Now we find 6, which is the jar lid at the top. All right. So we're going to lay this down, make sure everything's nice and flat under there. Pull this back to the line between 6 and everything we've already sewn. All right. And then we're going to cut it off with the seam allowance out there. Like that. Okay. See that seam allowance right there? Now, jar fabric. Jar lid. Which is this stuff. And I did notice that this, I need to cut it wide enough for the jar lid, right? But I need to make sure that I cut across some points so that it's straight. Because I don't want a jar lid that's, crooked. Although that might be all right. Might be funny. But in this case, I need a 1/4 inch to sew on each side and enough for a jar lid. Let's go down here. Make sure it's big enough. like that. Okay. So line it up on there where we cut that. And we're going to flip the whole thing over. Like that. Make sure that's flat. We're going to sew on that piece that we folded. Sew on the line. There we go. And it's okay. I'm going to go over here just to show you. It's okay if you go over the line most of the time. Okay. See how I stitched? Can you see that? I stitched past the line here. That's okay. Because when I peel this back and fold it on this line over here, I'm just going to tear that paper right there and fold it. It's no big deal. Okay. So that's my jar lid. Press it all the way out. Sometimes it helps to stitch it out further. Okay. Jar lid was number 6. So then we need to find 7. Now 7 and 8 on this block are on the sides, and then 9 and 10 are the top and bottom. And it's basically just like you would put borders on a quilt. You'd put, you know, like the sides on and then the top and bottom. You wouldn't put 8, 9, 10 like that. So we're going to do 7 and 8, and that's also background fabric. So that's still the dark brown. So we're going to go to 7. Use this little one. Okay. Okay. Whoops. See, that was folded under there and I didn't get it cut. Shame on me. See that? Just floating out in the wind. Goodbye. Okay. You see how small that corner got? Isn't that great? Okay, so 7 is a background piece. Let's go with this piece that I cut earlier today. Okay. Now, find these 2 lines right here, because that's how long it's got to be. So it just needs to go like that. Yeah. Okay. Flip. Hold everything together. Lay it down. Okay. Now look how small that corner is. That little bitty piece right there was number 2 that we did. Okay, so 7. Now I'm going to do 8. Make sure everything's laying out flat. Okay. Now this is where I stitched over, so I can just tear this back to the line. No big deal. If you have a question later, if you're watching this and it's not live and you go like, oh, I didn't know that, tell me more, just leave me a comment and I will still get them and I will try to answer. If you have a suggestion, also please do leave a comment. Use this big old piece. Maybe I can get away with it this way. No. Okay. This way. This is 8 on my pattern anyway. I just altered the pattern a little bit. If you don't have the use of an embroidery machine, you can do it the way they have it in the book, where the label is pieced in with it. That is cute also. It looked a little bit too much like a jam jar to me, so I wanted to put the label on afterwards. But it's your quilt. Do what you want. I've also seen these made with all kinds of bugs and things. Like it's called a jar quilt instead of a bookcase quilt. So you just make a whole bunch of jars, right? And you fill them with different things, right? So you'd put like bugs and frogs and butterflies and whatever. Kind of like an I Spy quilt in a way. Kids quilt. Okay. So it's starting to take shape. Okay, so we got 7, 8, 9 is next, and it's the last piece of background fabric. So we will lay this back this way on the line. Going to first, I think I'm going to cut this brown off and use it for this. So this is the line. I don't know if you can see that. This is the line on the block, the edge of the block here. This block is 6 inches, and the lines are all sewing lines. So in order to make this a 6-inch block in my quilt, I have to add the seam allowance to even the outside lines as well. So all of these have to have seam allowances added. So to this, I'm just going to cut it further out than 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to give it a little more room than that because I want to use this piece for the other side, or for the top rather. So I just gave it a little more. This bottom part. Okay, now back to what we were doing. The top piece, which is 9, fold it back. Add the 1/4 of an inch. Cut everything else off. We don't need it. Okay. See that? All right, flip it over. And there's the top. See, there's our little lid. Isn't that cute? Okay. Now I'm looking at all kinds of fabrics thinking, oh, would that look good in a jar? I don't know. Next week, I think I'll be doing the first set of books. I am going to have books on my bookshelf, but they're going to be potions and spell books and stuff like that. There was a quilt several years ago, lots of years ago, that was done like this, and it was all a Harry Potter theme. So it was called the Project of Doom. And you can Google that, Project of Doom. And all the blocks, I think, are free, or at least they were. And that was kind of fun because you have all the different characters, magic wands, and oh, what's that thing called that flies around? What's that called? The game that they played, Quidditch. Is that right? Anyway, whatever that gold ball thing was called. Anyway, so yeah, you could do the Harry Potter quilt if you wanted to. It's the same concept. It's all paper pieced. So there's the top. Now the bottom is the shelf piece on this jar. And see, if I put my hand down here, you can see the jar, right? The shape. So let's do that shelf piece. So I'm going to lay it down. Shelf piece is number 10. I'm going to fold this back like that. Okay. And this. All that off of there. Get that brown piece. Okay. All right. So let's see if we can use this. Yes, we can. All right, last one. This is going to be so cute. Well, now play nice. Thank you. All right. That was the shelf. And you know, I think I put my square ruler up. Oh well. I'll square it up with a regular ruler. Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to turn it into our block, which means we have to cut 1/4 of an inch outside the line here, because remember that's a sewing line. So I'll put this on here. Have some really neat things coming up in the next few videos. The next one I'm going to do, I think I'm going to do it on the books that are going on the shelves. But I also have some other things to show you that one of them's not even sewing. Don't even sew anything, but it's a really handy thing to have in the sewing room. So more of a tool that you can make for yourself. Oh, why am I using that? I use this. Okay, on the line. Hold it down. Okay. All right. There we go. There's our jar. Isn't that cute? Okay. But it gets better because we're going to take off the tissue paper now. See how the tissue paper is all encased now? Now our vinyl is behind that and it's all encased as well. So the way I do this is I take a pen and scratch the surface here a little bit, just at the edge where you can't really see it, just in case I scratch the actual vinyl. I do it on a seam line area till I can pull it back. There we go. Pull it back. Yeah. Okay. All right. Then I'll get off of there. Okay. Then you just pull it off. You just tear it off, just like you're going to tear the paper off the back. We're going to tear the paper off the front. Oh my goodness, looks like okra or something. Just toss that. Now, I've got little bits of pieces of paper here. I'll pull off what I can, and then I'll show you how to get the rest off. That's so cool. It actually looks like pickles in a way. Okay. Now, once you get it to where you just can see the edge of the tissue paper, but you can't really pull on it anymore, you want to open it up, and in between the seams, there's the rest of the tissue paper on this side, and you just kind of extract it out this way. Just kind of pull it back. Right. Now, if you miss some, don't worry about it. It will disintegrate when you wash it. And you can wash this because everything's encased. Oh, that one you can't get out. Oh, cool. Okay, let me show you that. So we'll peel this paper off the back because we're done with that anyway. Okay, then I have to pull this one off because this is the jar lid part here. Okay, and once I get that off, then that tissue paper's right in there. There we go. Yep, just like that. And there it goes. Yep, so I'd pull the rest of that off, of course. Yeah, so there you go. There's my jar of something, spices of some sort. Herbs. I think I'm just going to put herbs on the front. Herbs. So that's cool. So these would be next to each other on the shelf. See if you can see that. Like that, right? Then I have this is a 6-inch pattern. I have another pattern, I think I got it off the internet somewhere free, and it's for like a baby jar, so it's like 3 inches. So I may do a couple of those, and then I've got my gumballs, and my bowls. Probably have to do some plates too. And let's see, I can do candles. Maybe a small dagger, or I know I'm going to put a spider on there somewhere. Spider web also. I think I'll do the spider web afterwards. Have it like hanging down. And then I'm going to put a cat on there somewhere. It has to be a cat. Oh yeah. The last thing before we go is I wanted to show you. I showed this in the last video I did. And I'm having problems learning the audio thing of this, so bear with me. But I was talking about the things in the picture, and you couldn't hear me because I didn't have the audio right. So I can do it now. Let me see. Okay, here we go. So, okay, this cat right here is the Cheshire Cat. And I paper pieced him, and you can see the little, like his little nails, his little toenails, and his little eyeballs. They are so tiny, and it's so easy to do these when you do it on paper, like we just did. It's exactly the same process. You just follow the numbers. It's like painting by number. another thing I like about paper piecing is that you can use different fabrics. So for his teeth, I used glow in the dark fabric. It is available. It's really cool. So when you turn the lights out, his teeth glow. And then for his face, his cheeks and everything, I used Minky, which is very soft and furry and just really cute. So that's him. Let's see. There we go. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope I didn't leave anything out, since this was like the second time doing this. If you have any questions, please leave me a comment or do subscribe. There's a button down there. If you're watching this in full screen, you probably won't see a subscribe button, so reduce the screen and it should be there. And then you'll know when I do the book video, which will probably be next week, probably Wednesday or so. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye-bye.